Whoo! So 2 more key Supreme Court decisions rolled out today. And it was like Christmas in June for those who believe in limited government and maximum freedom. The first decision to roll out was the one that said a Christian web designer could, in fact, refuse to produce a same-sex wedding website. Now, Matt Walsh summed this up pretty perfectly, tweeting, "What a great way to end Pride Month. Gay activists do not have the right to force you to work for them. You are not a slave. You have freedom of association. It never should have been necessary to clarify this, but thank God sanity prevailed." But if you read Politico, they framed it a bit differently. They're saying Politico framed this, I mean, it was actually amazing. They framed it as if gay people were like losing a right or something, okay, which is not the case at all. You see, forcing someone to do something that is against their religious beliefs is not only against the Constitution, but forcing someone to do anything, like Matt Walsh pointed out, is actually the definition of slavery. I thought Democrats were against that. But this gay couple, they're still free to get married. They can have a website or a cake. They just can't force someone else to make it for them who disagrees with their beliefs. That's all this ruling says. Gorsuch noted in the majority opinion, quote, "The opportunity to think for ourselves and to express those thoughts more freely is among our most cherished liberties and part of what keeps our republic strong. Of course, abiding by the Constitution's commitment to the freedom of speech means all of us will encounter ideas we consider unattractive, misguided, or even hurtful, but tolerance, not coercion, is our nation's answer." Nailed it. He basically said, you don't have the right to not be offended. And being offended doesn't make you morally or legally superior over anyone else's viewpoints. Of course, the court's 3 liberal justices dissented. Sotomayor writing this, quote, "Today the court, for the first time in history, grants a business open to the public a constitutional right to refuse to serve members of a protected class." No! It pains me to point this out, given the fact that I don't even have a college degree, yet here I am correcting a member of the highest court in the land. First, the Constitution protects the religious views, not the imposition of anyone else's. And second, I wonder where Sotomayor sits on the Second Amendment under the same pretense. How many of you have ever seen a sign like this? Store owners, malls, even state and federally funded establishments ban you and I from carrying our lawfully owned firearms, constitutionally protected right to bear arms. They ban it all the time. We don't sue. We just go to a different store or temporarily relinquish that right to mail a postcard, drop our kids off at school, go to the DMV, whatever. But I think the more impactful court ruling we saw today was a breath of fresh air, despite Canada polluting the northern half of the United States again this week. The Supreme Court, in another 6-3 ruling that was released today, all 3 liberals again dissenting, Chief Justice Roberts saying the secretary asserts that the HEROES Act grants him the authority to cancel $430 billion of student loan principal. It does not. What does that mean? Well, despite Joe Biden's promises, he cannot cancel $430 billion of student loan debt. But here's the bigger problem. Joe Biden and the Democrats, they always knew they couldn't do this. Just take it from the iconic former speaker herself.
People think that the President of the United States has the power for debt forgiveness. He does not. He can postpone, he can delay, but he does not have that power. That has to be an act of Congress.
Oops. Yet they promised it anyway. To win an election, folks. Millions of young Americans saddled with student loan debt, they likely voted Democrat on this single issue alone. And I hope they realize that next go-around, the Democrats, they're just going to lie to you to get their vote. And the only way out of that debt is to pay it off. You could pay it off with jobs that paid much better under Trump than Biden. Biden's seen real wages drop over 3% since taking office. But the left has to deflect from this. So they jump to comparing them immediately to the cancellation of PPP loans. Remember those things? These memes are everywhere. They're being shared. But it goes to show the reach that these constitutionally obtuse people and their attempts they will make to twist the truth. If you recall, PPP loans were always advertised as partially or totally forgivable. Why? Because the government forced you to shut down your business during COVID. That's why. The difference is no one forced these kids to go to college or take out the loans. But I think the bigger argument here is, and this is right in line with Biden's plan for equity, is that he offered zero consolations for those who had already paid off their loans or those who never took them in the first place. Because Democrats don't care about you unless you're useful to them, unless they're dependent on them. They've weaponized the use of handouts. You see, the first time you give someone something for free, you garner appreciation. Second time, you might create some anticipation. Third, you create an expectation. Fourth, entitlement. And by the fifth time, you've created a dependency, meaning people, in this case, will vote based on who promises to continue those handouts, no matter how irresponsible or illegal those promises may be. But here's the dangers of this weapon that the Democrats have created single-handedly. When you can't deliver after you've built the entitlement, you create resentment and hatred. And that hate, scholars and journalists out there, was not created by Republicans or Donald Trump. That entitlement was created by dependency and by Democrats, not Republicans.